The real estate agents are wrong. Anybody telling you that home prices are going to continue to soar into 2025 in Florida is wrong. And I'm going to show you guys why they are wrong in this video. Now, I want to start off by saying I don't think Florida is a bad place. Yeah, it has lots of challenges with living here, especially in recent years when it comes to insurance, when it comes to housing costs, when it comes to the HOA problems that we're having. Those are all serious issues. But a lot of people still want to live here, including me. The day that comes when I don't want to live in Florida, believe me, I will leave. But that doesn't mean that we are invulnerable to a housing market downturn. There's still a lot of narratives being spun out there, especially by real estate agents, that the demand in Florida is so high that we're never going to see home prices come down here, guys. Well, I'm here to tell you that that's not true, because literally in already half of the counties in Florida, we're already seeing year-over-year price reductions. And the counties that aren't seeing those year-over-year price reductions are flat at best, with a few exceptions, Miami-Dade County being one of them. But I don't expect that trend to last forever either. You know, a lot of agents are saying, well, 2025 is the year to sell in Florida. Well, actually, the year to sell in Florida was 2022, guys. I'm here to tell you that. If you think 2025 is the year, you're like 3 years too late. And we can see that already from the amount of listings that are seeing massive price reductions that were purchased in 2022 or even afterwards. Some of them are already upside down and losing money and are selling for less than those purchase prices of 2022. Others are getting very close to those 2022 purchase prices in terms of what they're asking today. Florida is also the state that has seen inventory explode over any other state, and that is not really a surprise considering how much the cost of ownership has gone up here. Also, Florida is a very heavily investor-driven market. A lot of investors are trying to cut their losses while they can and are cashing out. And we're starting to see all of those listings that were purchased to be rentals or to be flips start to hit the market. Just take a look at this map here on the ReVenture app that shows you all of the counties across Florida, and what do you notice? First thing you notice is about half of them are seeing year-over-year price declines. This means that homes are trading for less today than they were a year ago, and once that trend starts, it's likely to continue for years to come. Just like when prices were going up, it lasted for years. We're likely to see the same happen with prices going down for years, because the inventory keeps rising at the same time the sales keep slowing down. Some people say, oh, luxury is the way to go. That's never going to come down. Well, take a look at this one here, guys. This is another example of a very egregious flip that's not going to happen, okay? This house here was sold in 2022 for $5.718 million, and then they turned around and listed it for sale in February of 2023 for $14 million. Think about that. Triple what they paid for it, basically. Then they took it off the market, listed it again, then they lowered the price down to $13.8, then down to $13.5, and then decided it was a good idea to raise the price once again back up to $15.2, an all-time high price for this property. Now, a home like this doesn't really show in the data of price declines because this home hasn't sold yet. And right now, on paper, this home is still well over what the person paid for it back in 2022. But nobody's going to pay $14 million for this house, guys, especially when it was just purchased a couple years ago for $5. And this is part of the reason you're seeing inventory pile up here in Florida, is because you're seeing a lot of sellers like this one that are still completely delusional, that still think it's 2022. Redfin, they just reported that home sales in Florida as of October of 2024 fell 10.2% year over year. And they're blaming it on bad weather. Well, we have bad weather every year. Pretty much every year, Florida is impacted by some kind of hurricane event somewhere in the state. So that's kind of normal. And to say that that's impacting sales is a big fat lie, because it always impacts sales regionally where the hurricane hits temporarily, and then eventually it rebounds, especially when people come in and try to buy up all of these hurricane damaged homes for pennies on the dollar. But everyone who's still bullish on Florida real estate moving into 2025 all is using pretty much the same narrative to say that this is the reason that prices are going to go up here, because they say, well, there's all this pent-up demand because a lot of people were holding off due to the election, and now that that's over, people can rest easy and have more confidence with their purchasing decision going into next year. So I don't want to get off on a tangent on that, but I just want to say real quickly, I don't know But it will be interesting to see if Trump being elected is going to be enough to instill confidence in Americans nationwide to move forward with big purchases like buying a home, for example, or buying a car in what's still a bad economy. Because the real estate agents are saying, well, the statistics show that the year following an election signals a boost in real estate and buyer confidence. Okay, well, let's see. Even if buyers do have more confidence, a lot of buyers are going to be smart and see, wow, the inventory around here is exploding and the prices are starting to come down. I'm seeing major price cuts on a lot of houses. Probably it makes sense to wait. For a while, people were waiting on interest rates to come down, and that was the supposed excuse of why people aren't writing offers, right? And then that didn't happen. And now that interest rates are still high, people still have to be wary of a bad economy. But what about the demand for actually moving to Florida? What's that like right now? Anybody who's been watching my channel for a number of years might remember that back in the early days, I actually made a couple hundred videos about that exact subject. I made all kinds of videos about moving to Florida, what it's like living here, the cost of living here, and some of those videos actually did pretty well back in the day. But I can tell you as a local, even without even looking at the stats, okay, just by living here and going around to different places, that the demand here has definitely tapered off over the past few years, okay? Just like housing demand's tapered off everywhere, but Florida was the poster child of the place to move to during the pandemic because we were one of the only places that was open and wasn't under the tyranny of all the mask mandates and the vaccine mandates and all of that, and people liked that. People wanted that freedom. But now that all that's over with nationwide, people are starting to move back to the places they came from because of jobs, realizing that they don't like it here anymore for one reason or another. And literally, this is what some of the experts are saying, guys. They're saying, well, places like Tampa, Orlando, and Pensacola are hot markets with job growth and plenty of things to do, so prices in these areas should climb or hold steady with so many people ready to buy in these areas. Well, I can show you right now on the Reventure app that all of these places are facing a decline right now. And they're also seeing big spikes in inventory, which is going to lead to further declines down the road. Okay, so here's an example of what I mean. Let's take a look at Escambia County in Pensacola, okay? Prices are basically flat here. The year-over-year price growth is non-existent right now. It did spike up during the pandemic, and you see how much it came down during the last housing crash. So prices here are no longer going up. And then we combine that with the fact of the inventory is also skyrocketing in this area. I mean, just take a look at this, guys. Back in 2017, inventory was at about 1,500 homes. Today, it's at 1,900 homes. How on earth are prices in Pensacola going to remain high when inventory has exploded past pre-pandemic levels? Let's take a look at Tampa. In Tampa, we also have inventory very close to pre-pandemic levels at 5,400 homes. It was at 5,700 back in October of 2018, so it's pretty much there already. And then let's take a look at what's happening with the home valuations there. We saw slight year-over-year price declines in 2023, and in 2024 it only went up 0.1%. So how does that bode well for the future of the Tampa Bay area? What about Orlando? Let's take a look. Orange County, this is actually the only county that is, on the higher side of being positive year over year, but you can see the growth is also slowing down substantially. Is it up year over year? Yes, slightly, but the forecast is that prices are going to go down, and that is because the inventory here is also exploding. Let's take a look. We also have inventory at pre-pandemic levels now. It was at 4,800 back in October 2018. It's at almost 4,800 again today. And you can see how much it dipped down during the pandemic. And this spike in just a few years like that is not a sign of a healthy housing market. This is a clear indicator that people here need to sell these homes. This is not a matter of want. This is a need for most people. You have investors that are looking to get out of this situation and take any kind of cash off the table that they can, combined with regular people that just can't afford these homes anymore. And if anybody who's unaware of this right now and is looking to move to Florida, then first of all, shame on you because you are not doing your due diligence. But all of these places are facing substantial increases in property taxes and insurance that is making these once very affordable areas in Florida no longer affordable. Even this area I'm walking through right now, this used to be actually considered affordable for this area. It was never that cheap, but it was affordable. You know, this is Surfside. You know, when I started selling real estate, you could buy a house here in the $300,000 to $500,000 range, which I know sounds like a lot, but the beach is a few blocks away, guys. So being this close to the beach and being this close to everything in Miami comes with a lot of its perks and has a lot of value, and people are willing to pay for it. But the prices here have ballooned. You don't see anything here for sale for less than $1 million anymore, like it's California or something. And people look at that and use that as the base case. Well, you see, Michael, prices are not going to come down in Florida. They're just going to keep getting more expensive. Another thing that real estate agents are saying is there's been a massive uptick as well in condo and townhome listings due to the HOA crisis that we're facing here in this state, with how much the HOA fees have gone up, how much the reserve requirements are going up, and things like that. And they say, well, if more and more people sell these places and want to move to houses, then it's going to drive the demand for those houses up even higher. But I don't think that's going to happen. You know why? Because, first of all, condos and townhomes tend to be on the cheaper side compared to houses, and a lot of people who own those places may not be able to afford to buy a house. That's the first thing. And even the ones who can afford to buy the house, that is not a direct replacement for your financial woes. Because what a lot of these people are going to realize, that once they start looking into the expenses of owning a house here in Florida, that it's actually equivalent to the cost of their condo or townhouse, if not even greater. And that's because of the rising cost of property taxes and insurance. When you buy a house here in Florida, you're going to get that property reassessed. Sure, if you're a homeowner here, you can transfer your homestead exemption to your new property. That will save you a little bit of money, but the insurance won't. And the reality is, the secret is out of the bag with Florida. People are now understanding that prices are coming down in many different areas. A lot of people have seen my videos and other videos from other YouTubers showing you guys how much prices are being cut here. And any smart buyer is going to see that and see the rise in inventory and say, you know what, it's probably cheaper right now in 9 out of 10 cases to be a renter, and I have the flexibility to take that wait and see approach and keep looking for the right property and pounce on the right place for the right price at the right time. If you're in that situation, you literally have nothing to lose right now. So why would you not do that? And the reality is, it's not just Florida either, guys. When you look at this map of the United States, you can see that a lot of the country is blue or a very, very light tan color. And what that means is all of those places in the blue are seeing year over year price declines. All the places that are the light tan color are seeing prices remain flat, and only the places that are more on the red side of things are seeing the prices increase. So in about half the country right now, prices are staying flat or going down, and the other half is where you're seeing prices go up. But what can also happen is people that are living in one of these areas that are still on the redder side of things, where prices continue to go up, they start thinking when they see the prices come down in all these other areas, like, well, this isn't happening where I live and it can't happen to me, so there's nothing to worry about here. I'm kind of insulated from any sort of future downturn, which is actually not true. It gives people that false confidence, though, that it is true. And as a home buyer in 2025, you will face a whole new set of challenges when it comes to finding a home, because so many homes now are in HOA communities, especially here in Florida. But here's the problem. There's a big divide between what's available and what people want, because about 70% of surveyed homeowners say if they were to buy a new home that they would prefer a community that's not in an HOA. And get this, 85% of the people who were surveyed currently live in an HOA. So most of them don't want that anymore. I think that kind of skews the results a little bit, because if you currently live in an HOA, then it can definitely skew your opinion about what it's like living in one, which is usually towards the negative side. But HOA communities are getting harder and harder to avoid, and that's because as of 2023, about 65% of the newly built single-family homes were in HOAs. And back in 2009, that number was 49%. And I've gone over the reason for this in past videos, but I'll give you a quick refresher here. And that's because local governments want the new developments to be HOA communities, because that means the government doesn't have to pay for any of the services in that community, like the roads and the sidewalks and the electrical sewer systems, anything like that. They pay for that stuff themselves, but yet the people who live there still have to pay the full property tax bill just like any other resident living in the area, which is completely not fair. If you ask me, guys, people are getting scammed on such a high level here, not just from the HOA, but also from the fact that the local governments are charging them full price in taxes to live in the area when they're not getting any of the benefits. Homes that are in HOA communities represent 30% of the housing stock in the US, and about 75.5 million Americans live in an HOA community. The next big movement should be not only that people are rebelling against paying property taxes, but especially people who live in HOAs need to rebel against paying property taxes, because people who live in these communities are getting the short end of the stick by far. How is it that the local government can collect full price property taxes from people that don't get to see any of those benefits come back to them when it comes to government services and maintenance? If you ask me, that should actually be the #1 reason not to live in an HOA community, is because of that. Not even just because the HOA can rip you off, but also because you're not getting your money's worth when it comes to property taxes. And you can see, as I scroll through this list here, that the monthly maintenance fees for different states are pretty high. The New York area is the highest one on the list here, and it just goes down from there. But you're paying on average $400 or $500 a month in HOA fees in a lot of these places. And these costs don't go down over time. No, no, no. The HOA fees just continue to go up. In fact, 51% of current HOA households say that they've experienced an increase in their HOA fees, and 65% say that price increases happen pretty frequently. And it turns out that only 60% of Americans who live in HOAs right now are satisfied with their HOA and the community and how everything's being handled, guys. 60% is more than half, but that definitely leaves a lot to be desired in terms of improvement. And there's some things you need to do if you're thinking about buying a house in an HOA, because not everybody hates them. In fact, a lot of people praise them because they like the fact that it's more uniform and cleaned up and there's more law and order. So some people like that. But if you are going to buy in a place like this, you need to make sure you get a copy of all the meeting minutes over the past couple of years, all of the rules and regulations, all of the covenants, the bylaws, everything, and review it, or have an attorney review it. But the thing is, that is so much easier said than done, guys. You are going to get a mountain of paperwork when you make this request, and nobody in their right mind really has enough time to go through and read every single thing. Most people are going to be looking for certain things or certain rules that they're worried about to see if it's going to apply in that situation. You need to ask about what's happening with the monthly HOA fee. You need to see what's going on with any future or coming assessments. You need to see if the house you want to buy or the condo you want to buy has any pending assessments. You also need to make sure you review any pending litigation that has anything to do with the HOA. You need to see if the community has reserve funds, which a lot of them don't. Now that that requirement is changing for condos, that's what's causing a lot of this condo problems. And to be quite honest with you, as somebody who's already been through this and lives in an HOA now, I will tell you this: you can do all your due diligence and research that you want, but at the end of the day, things change. The board members change, the bylaws can change if certain criteria is met. The community changes over time and how certain rules are enforced or not enforced. The HOA that you're buying into today is only a snapshot in time of what that HOA is like. It's no guarantee that it's going to remain like that in the future. And I think that's also one of the biggest problems with buying in an HOA, because even if the health of it looks good now, it might not be in the next 5 years or so. And the same is true for an HOA that is in bad shape right now. If they elect a good board and they start doing the right thing and clean up the mess of previous boards and start improving things, then the community can actually see a big improvement over the next 5 years. So it can definitely go both ways. And I will also tell you, as someone who lives in an HOA, that no matter if you're okay with the rules or not in certain places, you don't really know how many of those laws and rules are going to be enforced. You don't know how strict the board is on things. Like in my building, for example, okay, there's a lot of things that people aren't supposed to do, right? You're not supposed to walk the dog in the hallway. You're not supposed to have more than a few visitors at a time due to the parking and things like that. You're not supposed to hang stuff off your balcony, okay? But every time somebody does one of these things, nobody ever gets fined or punished, and you can look at that as a good or bad thing. You know, on the one hand, it's good that you don't have the HOA breathing down your neck and constantly writing people citations for doing stuff like this and having to pay fines. But at the same time, it makes you wonder, if those rules aren't being enforced, well, what else isn't being enforced, right? And I will also tell you that if you find a house or a condo, whatever it is that you really like more than anything else, but you're worried about the HOA situation, I would say that if you've never lived in an HOA before and you want to take the chance to go for it and go ahead and take the leap and see what happens and see how you like it, because it's one of those things in life that you're never really going to know if you like it or hate it until you do it, right? Because no matter how much due diligence you do on the property, you probably aren't going to look through everything that you're given with all of the covenants and all the bylaws and all of the minutes and everything like that, unless you're a psychopath, because I've never seen anybody do that before. And so chances are you will miss something that you wish you would have known ahead of time, and you're just not going to know if that's going to be a good or bad thing until you actually live in the community. But if things don't work out, you can always just turn around and sell. But of course, you might end up losing money, and it's a huge pain in the ass to move. Nobody wants to go through that, especially if you just moved into a place. So you are taking a risk there. But if you know you can afford to take that risk and you really like the community, then go for it. And don't forget, anybody that does need help with real estate, whether it comes to buying or selling, I got you covered. I can get you set up with a real estate agent completely for free. I always have the link for that down in the description below. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And if you don't want to wait for my next video to come out, check out this one on the screen right over here, and I'll see you in the next one.